The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and welcome to the Envision Global Young Leaders Conference post-enrollment webinar. You will find this webinar most helpful if you have already enrolled your student in the Global Young Leaders Conference for the summer. My name is Greg Johnson. I am a Senior Program Manager for the Career and Leadership Academy. I joined Envision nearly 10 years ago and am very excited for another great summer. Looking forward to sharing lots of information with you as well as answering your questions. In our chat this evening is the program coordinator, Jessica Smythe, and she'll be there to answer any questions that you may have throughout the presentation. First off, we'd like to welcome you and your student to the Global Young Leaders Conference webinar. We cannot wait to meet your student and begin this wonderful summer adventure. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items to review. First, this webinar platform is equipped with a dashboard. It's to the right of your screen. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type and submit them there. We're going to have about a 20-minute content session followed by a short Q&A, and really we'll take that time based off of how many questions we get throughout. As I said, Jessica will be monitoring the dashboard. If any pertinent questions arise, we'll try and answer it right away. Otherwise, try and save all your questions to the end. That way, we may answer your question as we move throughout the webinar. As we end the webinar, there'll also be a quick survey for you, and that's just for you to let us know how helpful this was for you. And please be honest while you're giving us that feedback so that we can alter any future webinars to better suit you and your scholars' needs. And a tidbit of information before we get started. At Envision, we use the term scholar to refer to our students. All right, with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get started. In today's webinar, we're going to cover some topics that we get the most questions about at this point in the enrollment process. If you have topics other than these that you would like to hear about, don't forget, use that chat box in the dialog box to your right. So on today's agenda, we'll be covering how to access your online information, safety and security, all of our back to travel information, preparing for your program and schedule highlights, what's next, and then, as I said, we'll have a quick Q&A towards the end. First up, accessing your online information. All right, so when you go to your My Envision Experience homepage, you're going to see a bunch of important forms and information. So if you click on that enrollment forms and information at the top of the menu, this is going to load a page that has all the forms that are available to assist you and your scholar in preparing for the program. Several items that are listed on this page are required for attendance at the Global Young Leaders Conference and have deadlines that need to be met in order for us to process that information and have it on file when your scholar arrives on day one. So please pay close attention to the required items as well as the deadlines. If you have more than one student enrolled, or if your student is an alum of our programs, you have the ability to toggle between your student accounts by clicking on the gray student tiles. The current account will have a light blue tile. So anytime you navigate to a new tab within your MyEnvisionExperience.com page, please ensure that you have the correct account selected before proceeding. Other helpful documents you'll find on this page include information about travel like WorldTech, which is our official travel agency. WorldTech can help provide you flight options and to help you coordinate your scholar's trip. There's also a section on preparing for your program, academic resources, policy procedures, and a sample schedule. So let's take a quick second to review the legend. The stack of straight lines indicates an online form that will open on this page once you click the form. The chain icon indicates an embedded link that will open a new page with information or a form for you to complete. The down arrow indicates a downloadable form or information sheet, and the up arrow icon indicates a form that you must download, complete, and then upload using the Choose File button that is provided. The black dot is a form or action that is incomplete, and a green check mark indicates that you have completed the form or opened an informational document. Don't worry about completing all these forms at once. You can always save them and come back later. Required forms are listed at the top in the required section, and if there's a deadline for completing a form, it will be listed after the name of the form. So once you've completed the form, the deadline will disappear. So please make sure that you go in and check and complete these forms by the deadlines. Health and safety protocols. We have spent the last year going through and preparing for a multitude of different events that, and getting ourselves ready for running programs during the COVID-19 pandemic. We created a task force called our Back to Tablet Task Force that was in charge of putting together these efforts. This task force leverages decades of experience across our company and has been assessing the safety of the destinations where we operate programs, stay abreast of opening and closing, and understand new protocols. This Back to Travel Task Force is led by our Chief Academic Health and Safety Office and our Medical Director, Dr. Sika, who oversees our Doctors on Call team. We're committed to evaluating each program individually and carefully as we make intentional decisions to help keep all of our participants safe. We are taking into account Center for Disease Control and World Health Organization guidelines, including staying up to date as new updates come out from each of them. We're going to talk about the pre-program requirements, our COVID-19 advisory letter, the POD model, staff safety, and what to expect on arrival day, as well as our communicable disease plan. All the documents that we will showcase can be found in your student portal account. So there are a number of pre-program requirements our participants will need to meet before joining us on arrival day. First, all participants are required to sign and upload the Envision by WorldStrides COVID-19 advisory letter located on your MyEnvisionExperience.com page. The letter emphasizes the importance that all participants be aware of the symptoms related to COVID-19 and take responsibility for monitoring their health and reporting any symptoms before or during the program. This includes wearing a mask, maintaining appropriate physical distance, and following proper hygiene protocols. Second, all participants are required to submit a negative PCR test no later than 24 hours prior to the program start date. This may differ based on your venue and program location. You'll be required to upload this information to our EduHealth system, and instructions on how to access this system and upload the appropriate information will be added to your student portal approximately 30 days prior to the program start. We will discuss more about testing and what a PCR test is in our next slide. Envision scholars and staff will be required to bring their own personal protective equipment for all site visits. Scholars will be provided WorldStrides branded safety kits at the start of the program, and each safety kit will include disposable masks, hand sanitizer, sanitation wipes, lanyard for mask storage, as well as a safety card with helpful tips. Furthermore, the registration process for both program arrival and departure will be digitized as much as possible in an effort to minimize contact. Staff and scholars should also remain mindful of signage when traveling from one space to another, referring to markers on the ground and being respectful of PPE boundaries or barriers that may be in place around the housing site or venue. Envision will limit the number of guests permitted on site during and at registration. So it's important to note all venues may have additional guidelines that we need to follow. You can read more about the pre-program and registration requirements regarding health and safety on your MyEnvisionExperience.com page. Students will be asked a series of symptom checks questions the day before and on the first day of the program prior to arriving to registration. We ask that if you are not feeling well, that you stay home. Students will also complete daily symptom check questions each day of the program. This information will be collected digitally on our EduHealth system each day, and it is recommended that students 13 years or older bring a mobile device to submit responses. Once you have completed these pre-program requirements, continue to check your scholar's specific account page for more information on preparing for your arrival day. So as I said, we utilize the PCR test, and a negative PCR test will need to be submitted no later than 24 hours prior to registration. This test detects the presence of a virus if you are infected at the time of the test. The test could also detect fragments of a virus even after you are no longer infected. It is considered the gold standard of COVID-19 detection. This test actually can detect the virus within days of infection, even in those who have no symptoms. It can be done in a clinic, hospital, or even in your car. Tests are sent to a lab and generally take about 1 to 3 days to get results back. If your scholar is vaccinated, a PCR test is still required. An antigen test, frequently referred to as a rapid test, is a non-PCR test and will not be accepted. If you would like to learn more about testing, you can use the link provided on the slide from the Centers of Disease Control website. In your student portal, you will also see information regarding our pod model structure implemented in order to help reduce possible risk of COVID exposure. Students will remain within this classroom pod for the duration of their time with us. This includes normal classroom group time, bus travel, rotations during scheduled events, as well as housing. Roommates will be assigned by pod, and students of the same pod will be on the same floor or section of the housing facility. The exact pod size may differ slightly from program to program, but all will fall within the recent CDC recommendation of 11 to 20 students per pod. We do understand that there may be times during the program where students may come in contact with others outside of their pod, and it is in those instances especially that being masked and appropriately physically distanced will be important. Additionally, we will be enforcing health and safety protocols that include requirements to complete health and safety training directly related to and mitigating the spread of COVID-19. Staff are also required to sign an advisory letter, get a PCR test done prior to the start of each session, wear personal protective equipment at all times, and finally, maintain and enforce the pod model with fidelity. Just as we have standard policies for on-site medical care in general, we spent time working with our Doctors on Call team based at George Washington Medical Center to build out a communicable disease policy. The execution of this policy is of course dependent upon the local guidance of officials and authorities, but we standardize our practices as much as we could. We built out very specific steps to take when someone starts exhibiting symptoms while they are at the program. And as you can see on the slide, we then built upon that to build out scenario guidance related to situations. Quarantining students, getting students tested if necessary, how to respond to test results, and our communication plan with our partners and vendors. Our standards for responding to someone exhibiting symptoms are to separate the staff or scholar from roommates and program participants as soon as possible, keep at least 6 feet of distance, contact a medical professional, either our nurse on site or doctors on call, to check symptoms. Be prepared with the individual's medical and travel history, as well as any interactions with others who may have come in contact with them. We'll utilize our Scholar Medical Report to document this, and to evaluate the health of those who may have come in close contact. If the length of quarantine or isolation will exceed the length of the program, we will work with families and guardians to determine if the student will isolate or quarantine at home. In the event that the family is unable to arrange private vehicle transportation back home, we will work through options to determine the appropriate quarantine or isolation method. Once scholars arrive, their safety and security is the #1 priority. So we're going to now go through a number of items to help answer any questions you may have about safety and security. First off, our staff. Scholars are led through the program and cared for in small groups by trained advisors. These staff members are experienced with students and have undergone extensive training and background checks. Many staff members are educators outside of the summer months and work year-round to provide safe and high-quality experiences for students. Our staff members will be required to sign the Envision by World Strides COVID-19 advisory letter, provide a negative COVID-19 PCR test prior to the program start, and to undergo frequent testing throughout the program session, as well as completing health and safety intensive training. Emergencies. During the first group meeting, scholars will take part in a briefing on the policy and procedures of the program. This will include information on who to contact in an emergency, attendance, off-site safety procedures, and venue safety protocols. They will also practice the emergency evacuation plan in their first small group meeting on this evening. Name badges. Envision also has several safety processes in place that we teach to our scholars and ask them to adhere to throughout the program. All staff and scholars must wear their name badge anytime they are outside of their sleeping room, and staff conduct attendance at every group meeting and anytime they depart a location on the bus. This name badge is important. Not only does it identify them as part of the program, but it also holds emergency contact information that is printed on the back. Scholar and staff name badges will be equipped with a mask clip for easy hygienic mask accessibility. Our scholars are encouraged to travel with a buddy. Scholars will be transitioning to program events with the advisor or another staff member leading them. As mentioned, the pod model structure will be based on roommate pods, and scholars will experience all program components with their roommates. Nightly room checks. Every evening, our scholars are dismissed to their sleeping rooms. Staff will conduct room checks nightly to ensure that all students are in their rooms for the night and distribute any important information for the next day's events. Once room checks are complete, scholars are not permitted to leave their rooms until breakfast the following morning. Attendance checks. As I said, attendance checks are done through several times throughout the day, including meals, group meeting sessions, before, during, and after transitioning to a new event on campus, and then before bed. If there is a missing scholar, we have an emergency protocol to locate the scholar and return them to their group. Scholars will be taken to the emergency meeting location on the first day of the program so that they will know where to go in case anything happens. Staff ratios. At the Global Young Leaders Conference, we have a student-to-staff ratio of 7:1, and the students have a student-to-advisor ratio of 18:1. Each classroom will have support staff members available to assist and distribute the needed materials for each lesson. We also have a team of scholar relations who will support scholars' needs in any way. If your scholar is feeling sick, homesick, or needs something during the program, this team will assist them. Again, we hire educators and individuals from all over the country to serve in these roles. Students will receive emergency telephone numbers for our staff who are monitoring the hotel and dorms throughout the night. They can call this number at any time if they need assistance after room check. These numbers, again, will be listed on the back of their name badges and are accessible to them at all times. Staff will also be monitoring the halls to assist any students that do not have a phone. Incident reporting. When an incident occurs, our staff will spring into action. We will contact you if an incident occurs with your scholar, whether it's behavioral or medical, and all incidents are recorded and reported to the program office. You are involved and informed at every step. We consider an incident to be anything that occurs on a program which affects your scholar and is not prearranged per the itinerary. This includes medical issues, weather impacting the schedule, lost items, travel disruptions. Incidents may originate on-site, or a parent can call our office with a concern. Our phones are managed 24/7, and every single incident is documented and follow-up occurs in coordination with our on-site staff to reach a resolution. Additionally, we will have daily health checks for scholars and staff to ensure that every participant at the program is not exhibiting any symptoms of an illness. A nurse will be on site with the program for specified days throughout the program. During nighttime hours, there are designated support staff members to take care of reporting any medical needs. Scholars will have contact information on how to reach a support staff team member at all times of the day or night. All right, next we're going to transition into how to prepare for your program. In the required session, you will see you also see the student information form and the medical authorization and information. These forms are a great place to start to let us know what medical needs and or any dietary restrictions your scholar may have. Accommodations can be made for vegetarian, vegan, kosher, halal meals, as well as many food sensitivities and allergies such as gluten, nuts, and dairy. We work directly with our dining partners and can make requests upon your behalf. The Global Young Leaders Conference is a nut-free program. There will be vending machines and gift shops on site at each location that offer candy with nuts. Scholars are told not to purchase any of these items for the safety of all scholars and staff of the program. If you choose to send snacks for your scholar, please send nut-free snacks only. Given the nature of allergies of staff and scholars, a staff member will ask that all snacks containing or made with nut products be removed from sleeping rooms, classrooms, and other program spaces. The Global Young Leaders Conference does have a number of off-site visits where meals will be enjoyed off campus. A good rule is to bring enough spending money to purchase 5 to 6 of these off-site meals. Under the category Preparing for Your Program, you'll see a roommate request application. If there is someone attending the program that your scholar would like to room with, please submit the request using this online form. This will generate an email request to the other scholar's family, who can then accept or decline the request via the online system. Please note that this form can only be used for double roommate requests. Any request beyond that must be made through our Office of Admissions. And also remember that not all of our housing sites are able to accommodate requests beyond a double. If you have any concerns or questions, please reach out to our Office of Admissions to clarify. Their information will be provided at the end of the webinar. Dress code. The Global Young Leaders Conference enjoys an excellent reputation in our communities as a result of the prestigious students. To ensure that this is maintained, our scholars are expected to maintain a high standard of appearance. The dress code consists of professional attire, relaxed professional attire, and casual attire paired with comfortable shoes. Take some time to review the dress code in detail to ensure your scholar is prepared with the proper and enough clothing. The number of outfits your scholar should pack for each type of attire is listed on this slide. Definitions of each type of attire, including how many outfits to bring per type of attire, can be found on your dress code, planning and travel checklist at your MyEnvisionExperience.com homepage. It's important to note that masks or clothing with offensive or inappropriate designs or stamps will not be allowed. Envision is committed to providing a safe and inclusive experience for all of our scholars and staff in an environment that values each participant and encourages the exchange of diverse ideas, skills, and contributions. In order to cultivate and maintain this environment, Envision defines and teaches the expectations we want to see. These 4 positively stated, easy to remember expectations align with creating the culture that we want to see at our programs. The expectations are known as the 4 Bs. They include be respectful, be responsible, be safe, and be engaged. It's important that you and your scholar understand these expectations and are committed to upholding Envision's program culture while attending our program. All right, so let's look at the program schedule and some highlights. Let's talk about some of the amazing scheduled activities your scholar will experience while at the program. First off, we are delighted to welcome speakers from the World Bank, Department of State, and United Nations to come and speak to our scholars. Our curriculum includes global issues workshops featuring experts in human rights, social welfare, urban sustainability, and the environment. All scholars will take part in the Global Summit simulation, and the program will be visiting the National Mall and Memorials, Chinatown, and Times Square. While your scholar is away at their Envision by World Strides program, we are sure that you will be excited to see photos of what they are doing. Envision partners with Waldo Photos to share our program photos. You can view program photos by going to You select your Scholars Program album and then select the program location and dates. Waldo Photos allows you to download photos, buy prints, share them on Facebook, and save them as favorites for later viewing on your Waldo account. We also have our Scholar Shop. If you are interested in purchasing any Envision gear, please check out the Envision Scholar Shop at shop.envisionexperience.com. What's next? So there are 4 reminders to ensure that your scholar gets off to a successful start to this summer's Global Young Leaders Conference program. First, make sure you go in and book your travel from the session location and complete the mandatory travel form. Make sure to complete all forms required on your MyEnvisionExperience.com page. Complete all program-specific waivers on your MyEnvisionExperience.com page. Sign the COVID advisory letter. Schedule your COVID tests no later than 2 to 3 days prior to your program start date. Complete all the pre-program assignments. And then finally, be ready to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. Again, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. If you need to speak with someone about anything we talked about today or for any other reason, please reach out to our admissions department. The contact is listed on this slide, and I'll leave that up through the question and answer session. Now we're going to turn our attention to questions that we have been asked throughout the webinar. If we don't get to your question today, we will be sure to follow up with an answer as soon as we can. And again, the numbers to reach our Office of Admissions are on the screen, and I will leave those up throughout the question and answer session. All right. So not seeing a lot of questions thus far. Are we organizing an online program for international scholars who are unable to attend due to travel restrictions? That's a really good question. At this point, we are not organizing an online program for international scholars. If for some reason you are unable to attend the program due to COVID travel restrictions, please contact our Office of Admissions to discuss what options you may have. Let's see, will all 3 meals be provided? That depends on the day of the program. Anytime we are out and about in either DC or New York and we have a meal while off-site, those meals should be paid for by the scholar. So anytime we are on-site and have a meal, so any breakfast and most of our dinners and most of our lunches, those will be provided. But take a look at the sample schedule that's on the MyEnvisionExperience.com webpage, and that will give you an idea as to how many meals you need to plan for. How will students depart St. John's to the JFK Airport at the end of the program? We'll have a shuttle that runs, and it's the same as arrival day. Students that arrive at the airport, we will have staff at the airport that will meet the students, and we will have a shuttle that runs between the airport and the program site. On departure day, we do the same thing and opposite. We have a shuttle that departs and takes students to the airport, and then we will have staff members there as well. Do we have a contact person that international students can use? That's our Office of Admissions. There's a toll-free number there that that any and all questions can go through. Is there a laundry on site in case I need to wash anything? That's a really good question. I believe that there is laundry on site at St. John's University, but I will need to double check with that. So if you would like to reach out to the Office of Admissions and pose that question there, that way I can make sure that I've got your contact information to follow up with you. Oh, the questions are moving a little quick now. For the Global Young Leaders Conference, yes, we are expecting international scholar participation. Where will the students be residing? Will they find out who they are rooming with ahead of time so they can connect? Good question. So the first half of our program that's in Washington, D.C., our students will be residing at the Sheraton Pentagon City. The second half of the program that is in New York, the students will be residing at St. John's University. The students will not find out who they're rooming with prior to the program because we are creating those rooming lists as close to program start as we possibly can so that we have accurate lists to give to our housing partners. But they're going to have plenty of time to connect once they arrive on site. How are students getting from DC to New York? We have a bus. We got buses that take us between DC and New York. There's a question of where pickups occur. I'm guessing that the question is referring to departure day. You can pick your student up at St. John's University. And closer to program delivery, we will have all the departure day information there on the myenvisionexperience.com site. How many students total are in the program? We're looking probably in the neighborhood of 120 to 150 students. Do we have to schedule the shuttle for transportation? That's a really good question. Yeah, whenever you are going on and filling out your mandatory travel information form at the myenvisionexperience.com page, they're going to ask you how your student will be arriving to the program and departing from the program, whether it is by private vehicle, by self-arranged transportation, so taxi, Uber, things of that nature, or by our shuttle. If you would like for your student to utilize the shuttle to bring them from the airport to the housing site, and then from the housing site back to the airport at the end of the program, you're going to click to use the arrival day shuttle and the departure day shuttle. It'll walk you through how to do that whenever you're filling out that form. What time will shuttles leave for JFK? Need to book flights, but not sure of the time. We typically have our first shuttle leave between 10 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. So please schedule flights accordingly. If you need to schedule a flight outside of our departure time, please contact the Office of Admissions so that we can work with you and provide options for getting your student from the housing site to the airport. Oh, I was just getting ready to answer a question and lost it. And it scrolled all the way to the top. Will they be staying in dorm rooms? Yes, for the back half of the program, whenever we are at St. John's University, our students will be staying at dorm rooms. So a photo ID is required for some events. What if the student doesn't have photo ID? Great question. If you can reach out to our Office of Admissions, that will put you in touch with a member of a program team who can walk through those ID requirements and what our options are from there. I see a question of where do we send our PCR testing results? So 30 days prior to program start, whenever you go to your myenvisionexperience.com page, you're going to see a listing for EduHealth, and you can upload your test results to EduHealth. Do we bring laptops with us? That is not a requirement. You do not need to bring a laptop with you, but as we talked about during the webinar, you will be asked to self-report each day, any symptoms or any illness you may be experiencing. To do so, we do ask if you bring a mobile device, so phone, a tablet, something that can connect to the internet and utilize the EduHealth app. Again, a laptop is not required. If you would like to bring one with you, go right ahead. The parent link will be live here shortly. Are cell phones permitted with the students? Most definitely cell phones are permitted. Is it too late to get the New York City extension? Not at all. Please just contact our Office of Admissions and they'll be able to help you out. I apologize. Your questions are popping up on my screen in a couple different places. So if I've answered double questions or missed something, I apologize. But you can always contact our Office of Admissions should I have missed your question. How many people will we have in our groups, and will these groups ever change? That's a really good question. Our groups are going to be between 18 and 20 students, and you will be with that. That's what we call our advisor group. You will be with that advisor group throughout the entirety of the program. So first half of the program in DC, again, back half of the program in New York City. This is part of the pod model that we've implemented in order to try and reduce the amount of potential risk in COVID-19 exposure throughout the program. So based off of that pod model, yes, you will be operating within those groups throughout. And just kind of scrolling through to see if we have any other questions that I haven't gotten to yet. Jessica's doing a great job at grabbing them. How early can students come for early arrival? That's a great question. So at this point, we do not have programming that is set prior to arrival day. Should you be traveling internationally and have limited access to flights and need to arrive early, please contact our Office of Admissions so that we can start to talk through some options. I feel like I'm giving that answer a lot, and I apologize if that's frustrating, but it really is best that we contact the Office of Admissions so that we have a record of the conversation and both sides know exactly what we need to do in order to make sure that the experience is a positive one. How do you request a roommate? Your MyEnvisionExperience.com page has the option to request a roommate. When you submit that request, it will generate an automatic email to the family of the individual you are requesting to room with. And at that point, they have the ability to either accept or deny that roommate request via the online system. If we are fully vaccinated, do we still need to wear a mask? Yeah, that's a great question because I know there's been some CDC guidance and things of that nature. Yeah, Envision is requiring that all students and staff wear a mask regardless of vaccination. So please be prepared to wear your mask anytime you are outside of your sleeping room. Are we expecting a lot of international students? We've got a decent amount of international students. I can't give you the exact breakdown right now because enrollment is still occurring. But yeah, we are expecting. Early arrival was already off on the website, and I already paid for it. Great. Okay. I'm going to take down your information real quick so that I can reach out to you so that we can discuss when and all that kind of stuff. What happens if your COVID test comes back positive? That's a really good question. So there are several things, there are several protocols that we have in place. We kind of went through these towards the middle of the webinar. And I'm guessing you're asking if it comes back positive prior to program start. If that test comes back prior to program start, then someone from the program team will be reaching out to you. Should we have an instance of an individual who is feeling ill and takes a COVID test and tests positive, we have procedures in place to isolate that student to make sure that there is no further spread. We will have doctors on call as well as nurses that can help with identifying symptoms, and we will do everything that we need to do to get that student the medical care that we need and stay in contact with that student's family throughout. What if we don't have 5 different mentors? That's fine. If you don't have 5 mentors, that's fine. If you've only got a couple people that you consider a mentor, list them. The idea behind that is for you to be able to take a look at, okay, what did someone who you consider a mentor, what did they list as your strengths and opportunities prior to the program start? and then give you a chance to reflect on that at the end of the program to see what progress that you were able to make in those areas of opportunity. Were there places that you were able to that you were already strong in that you were able to really, really solidify? So if you've only had a couple mentors, list those. We're not gonna kick you out if you don't have all five. If you are not allowed to enter the U.S. because of the pandemic, you only need to call the Office of Admissions to talk through your options. If you have been having issues getting a hold of someone in the Office of Admissions, let me know, and we can go from there. At the end of the program, where are all international students supposed to be picked up from? So we will, on departure day, we will have shuttles that transport the students between the housing site and the airport so that they can catch their flights out of the United States. If you are picking up from the program site, we'll have all that pickup information on their MyEnvisionExperience.com page closer to program start. Test results are submitted through the EduHealth system, which will be on your MyEnvisionExperience.com homepage 30 days prior to the start of the program. Are the students supposed to have mentors? There is a form called a FUEL form, and that is feedback for emerging leaders. Sorry, I totally blanked on that form name for a second. Apologies. And in that FUEL form, we ask for mentors to provide feedback to our students. It's a nice thing to have because, again, the students can take a look and see, okay, what are some areas that I want to work on throughout the time that I'm here at the program. What do I want to focus on? Does the feedback say that I need to work on public speaking? Well, if I need to work on public speaking, what are my options here at the program to volunteer for any public speaking possibilities, and how do I challenge myself to build that opportunity into a skill? So it's something that we use. It's something that students can use to kind of track overall progress throughout the conference. What are some of the differences from the regular GYLC compared to the COVID version? It's a great question. We're trying to keep those differences as negligible as we possibly can. For instance, the State Department speaker will be coming to us because as of right now, the State Department is not having outside groups. The pod model is being implemented. Typically outside of COVID, there would not be a pod model. Bus groups are a little bit smaller. Really, again, we're trying to keep those differences as negligible as we possibly can, without sacrificing the overall experience of the program. But we do want to make sure that everybody is staying safe. The biggest difference is everybody's got to wear a mask anytime they're outside of their sleeping room. That's the number one difference. Breakfast generally is about an hour each morning. Students who might coming in from, if you are in a situation where the requirement is a self-isolation or a quarantine period prior to the program, please reach out to our Office of Admissions so that we can start to talk about what some options are for that student in self-isolation. It's not a situation where we would be able to be supervising that program during their self-isolation. That's just not something that we would be able to offer. But again, reach out to our Office of Admissions to see about any options there may be. Questions are kind of slowing down here a little bit, so we'll give it just a couple of more minutes. This webinar will be recorded, and it will be on the MyEnvisionExperience.com page in the coming days. So feel free to go back and reference it should you need clarity on anything that we covered today. Again, the Office of Admissions number is on the screen right now. That's really your best avenue if you need to speak with someone about a specific question that you may have that was not answered here during the webinar. Please reach out to our Office of Admissions using either the toll-free number or the local number that's on screen. PCR is it's a COVID test, but it is not the antigen test. It is not the rapid test. So make sure that when you're scheduling that your PCR test, that it lists it as a PCR test and not a rapid antigen test. What is the dress code? Dress code changes throughout the program depending on the program event. There are some days where we will start and we'll be in professional dress, and then we'll be in classrooms for the rest of the day. So we will switch to casual dress. It really depends on the day of the program, but you can check your MyEnvisionExperience.com page, and that will show you exactly what the dress code is and how many days or how many types of outfits that you should have. All right. Looks like we have answered most of the questions in chat. I'm just kind of scrolling down to the end again. No, we're not gonna yell at you if you dress a little wrong. That's fine. Yeah, if you go to the MyEnvisionExperience.com page, that's going to list all of that will list out how many instances, how many outfits you may need for casual, for relaxed professional dress. International student will be dropped off in Washington when the program is completed. Can I be picked up in Washington? No. All departure is from New York. We will not have staff that will be transporting any students back to Washington, D.C. after the program is completed. So any departure, all departure needs to be from New York. All right. Well, will we get a fine if we submit a required form a few days after the deadline? Yeah, that fine is going to be payable to Greg Johnson. No, I'm just kidding. No, if you need to submit something a few days after the deadline, just let us know, and we can make sure you're okay there. All right. Well, again, thank you very much for taking some time to be with us this evening. We really appreciate your time and attention. Again, if you have specific questions about the program or about any of the forms or anything that we've talked about today, please contact our Office of Admissions. They'll be able to help you out and get you the information that you need. And then also this webinar will be available on the MyEnvisionExperience.com page within a few days post delivery. So you'll be able to go back and take a look at that if you need any specific questions answered. But again, thank you. Appreciate your questions, appreciate your attention, and we can't wait to see you here in just a few short weeks. So thank you very much and have a great evening.